Hi, I'm Whitney Morris, fantasy author, and today I'm going to be talking about how I start to develop my characters. So this question was originally asked to me over on TikTok, and that is where the short answer is. Now this is the longer, more detailed answer with examples. And the examples I'm going to use are from my own book, and I'm going to be talking about Melissa's journey that she goes through in Crystal Heart. So this is my original notebook that I use to write all my notes and plans and things about Crystal Heart. This one is probably the biggest mess out of every notebook I've ever kept because I was just all over the place when I started doing this. But what I did have down was my character profiles. And I wrote out, this is my really, really badly drawn map of what I wanted the world to look like. I was like, it's awful, but it's all there. And I can, just laugh at myself. For what has got, I've got my original character profile that I gave Melissa, and this is where I started. I started off by, figuring out her name. I spent ages on baby name websites, and then eventually went with Melissa Hale. That is her name, and she is 18, and her height is 5'5", and her appearance is wild curly hair, brown eyes, and she is biracial, and that is important to the story. Now, there are some parts that I don't particularly know the answers to yet, but I will fill them in once I figure those things out as I'm going through writing sometimes. I have since progressed in my character profiles, and I have a much better detailed profile that I keep saved on my computer that I now use for my characters. My character profiles are split into sections. So the sections that I have, they have the big headings are demographics, physical appearance, history, psychological traits, abilities, relationships, and character growth. And each section has smaller bits to answer and fill in, but physical appearance and demographics is usually the easiest to come up with because it's just I'm just how do I picture them, what do they look like? But there's some important things things with physical appearance that can actually, as much it's just a trivial thing, it's just are they pretty or not, it's that's not it. It's sometimes how their outward appearance and how they look can also inform their personality traits. So in Crystal Heart, Melissa is purposely biracial, and that is all part of the story, and it is an integral part of her character growth. The fact that she is biracial and does not understand her mum's side of her family because she was cut off from it because she lost her mum really young, and that's a big part of her character arc as well. So as much as it might not seem as important sometimes, your character's appearance can be impactful in how they interact with the world. And also going on talking about history, writing out your character's history. Sometimes these are things that have happened in their past and they shape who they are now, but they are not part of the main story now. But it can be a really good exercise to write these things out and get to know your character in that way. And having written those things, fine, they might not make it to the final piece, but you now have so much more understanding to your character, and it will help you inform these next 3 questions that I ask myself when I am developing my characters, the final part, their character arc. So, 3 questions I ask myself when starting to develop my character's arc that I'm going to go through, and it is just the starting point. These 3 questions are, what does my character want? What do they need? And then what are they going to do about it? Now, these 3 questions all have a different answer. So I'm going to use some examples of the answering these questions from my own book, Crystal Heart. So I'm going to start with the main character, Melissa. What does Melissa want at the start of the book? Melissa literally just wants to be a normal teenager. She wants to keep her head down and finish high school and then go to university. That is literally her plan. That's all she wants to do. But she's having these weird dreams. And then she meets Greg. And all of a sudden, her world's been turned upside down. And it turns out magic's real. So her want changes slightly to, I want to help Greg. I'm going to go help him, sort this thing out. Then once I've done this, I can then go back to my normal life and I can go finish school and go to university. So you see how her want changed only slightly, but she still just wants to basically be a normal teenager. Even after knowing about magic, she's still there resisting, I still just want to go back and, carry on and just keep my head down and be normal. But this leads on to her, what does she need? Melissa needs to basically, 1, accept her destiny, 2, embrace her magic and what that means, and understanding her mum's side of the family more, because her mum died when she was young, she didn't get to learn about the magic, and she didn't get to know about that other side of her. And going along, and her part of her journey is to embrace that side and be like fully who she is. But by embracing who she is and her mom's, like her heritage from her mom's side and all her magic, it goes against, it's literally her want of wanting to be normal and go to university. Because if she accepts this magic and who she is and her mom's the heritage from her mom, then suddenly she can't be normal anymore. She's not. So that's in a conflict going on with her. The want and the need don't match up. So what's she gonna do about it? So this is all in like my little chart. This is what I do. I make a little chart. Like I will show you. So here we go. We got that. So she has stupid ideas, smart plan. Like so. So, and then this is the chart filled in. So, some of these stupid ideas that Melissa has. Now, in the book, Melissa doesn't think these are stupid ideas. She's like, aha, I know what to do. I'll just do this, and this will help me get back to what I want. Because, like, life is happening around her, and she's like, she feels like it's out of control. And she's like, I know what I'm going to do. I'm going to do this. She's actively making these choices. She doesn't think they're stupid ideas, but I, as the author, know they're stupid ideas and they're the wrong ones for her. Because, obviously, I'm the author. I know better. Maybe. Anyway, so, her stupid ideas. Well, one, when she finds out she has magic and she's got powers, she chooses to keep it hidden from her dad. Now, if anyone has read this book or knows even a little bit about Crystal Hart, Mr. Hale is the best dad ever. He's so supportive and so understanding. She had no need to hide this from her dad. But if she told her dad, then it would be real and then she wouldn't be able to go back to being normal. So she keeps it hidden from her dad because once she finishes helping Greg and, sealing Caden and getting it out of the way, she can then go back to her normal life. And if her dad doesn't know any wiser, he'll continue acting like she was a normal teenager, and she can just pretend that it never happened. So she decides to keep it secret from her dad. She runs away from the fight initially. She also rejects the call of action initially and asks Greg to leave. When she does decide to agree to help, because weird things are happening around her, and she realizes that she can't escape this shadow darkness that's coming, because now that she's been found, she's outed. Okay, so she does agree to help initially, but under the condition that she's only going to travel to the magic world to see Caden. Once that's done, she's going to go back home and she's going to go back to her normal life as a high schooler, and she's going to finish school and then she's going to go to university. She's very determined, like, that's it. Then I'm done. I'm going to do this one magical thing, and then I'm one and done, and I'm going to go back to being normal. We obviously know that's not going to happen, but she thinks she can do this. Now, when along the way, she starts to develop feelings. She pushes them down. She rejects her feelings towards Greg. Like, oh, we're just friends. Nothing's going to develop because once this is done, I'm going back home, he's going to the magical world, and then we're never going to see each other again. So she pushes those feelings down and is like, nah, not happening. Because, again, she's going to go back to her normal world. And she can't, like someone who has magic, because that means then she has to actually admit that she's not normal and magic's real. And she can't go back to the normal world and just be like, oh yeah, I'm a normal human. Yeah, you see, stupid ideas. Now, when things start to go really, really wrong, again, she runs away from the fight, and then she throws herself a pity party, and it's just like, I'm rubbish, I can't do anything, and good old Victoria comes in and is just like, tells her about herself. You gotta love Victoria, she's like the best character ever. Yeah. Another thing that Melissa does is that she does not tell Victoria how much she admires her. She keeps it, she literally is like, I'm so shy, I don't have this confidence, but Victoria oozes it, and Melissa is just so envious of it. She doesn't hate her, she loves how, like, confident Victoria is, and she admires Victoria, but she doesn't ever tell her, and she's just like, I can't do it. I wish Victoria would just talk for me. It's like she's letting she wants Victoria to talk for her. It's like, no, you need to stand up and talk and do these things herself. So you see how these are all dumb, okay? But obviously, in her emotionalness and in her time and just like being completely thrown with everything happening, it makes sense to her. These make sense to Melissa to do these things. Now, eventually, plot happens, and she turns and realizes I actually need to do something. I can't keep running away. I can't keep trying to pretend that I'm not magical and that my mom isn't a descendant of the elf queen Freya from long ago, and now I have this heart crystal because I'm the only one left that can use it, because this darkness has been basically wiping out my family for a long time. So the smart plan is that eventually she takes charge of her destiny. She decides she's stopped running and she's going to accept it. She embraces the heart crystal and her magic. Then she chooses to go and face Caden. It's like, Greg is very much against this plan of hers. He's like, no, you need to have backup, we need to have a plan. And she's like, bruh, no. This is it. I've made my decision. I'm going. She's finally like being confident and found her voice, and she's like, I know what to do. Me and Victoria, Hakura as well, we're going. Us three. And they go. And she goes into battle. And final thing that she does, which is part of the smart plan, which is right near the end, is that she goes and meets the rest of the elves. Basically her mum's people, and she goes and joins them. And that is her arc completed, because she is now no longer trying to go back and pretend that she's normal and that she's a human. She's fully embraced, and at the end, she's now going and joining her mom's people. And you see how that want was holding her back, and the need is what eventually pushed her forward to change. And the want is made resistance of her just going through that character. Because if she just knew what she wanted, if she just knew she needed to do this thing, there would have been no like conflict. There would have been no like, there wouldn't have been much of a story if the want and the need matched up. They needed to be different things and at conflict to each other to give her an arc. And this is just a starting point. Now, all of these stupid ideas now need to be worked into the plot. When things happen, these are decisions she makes, and these are all points in the story and needs to happen at the right time and the right throw. And then the smart plan always comes usually after all of the stupid ideas have been done as well. So she'll have done all of these stupid ideas, and then eventually she'll have her aha moment. And then we'll get the smart plan. And then Melissa decides, I'm going to start being smart. So now I'm going to do a second example by talking about Greg. So Greg is the second main character and our second POV. We first meet Greg at a train station, waiting to go to the capital and meet with the council. So what does Greg want? All Greg has ever wanted is to win his father's approval and for him to be proud of him. Now, Greg's dad is a member of the council, and he is one of the leaders of his people. He is a very important figure, and since a very young age, Greg has been being groomed to take over his father's position and to be the next Elder Knight. That's what they call them, because they just like fancy random titles. But yeah, basically he is being groomed to be the next leader, and this has led to his dad having like these crazy expectations and putting all this pressure on him to perform and how he should behave. And everything Greg does is always informed by, what would my father want me to do? How would my father want me to behave? How should I respond? According to what my father wants me to be, sort of thing. And this leads on to Greg's need, and I feel like with the sort of want that Greg has, it's really obvious what he needs. And what he needs is to realize that he does not need his father's approval. It shouldn't be this hard to win your father's approval either. It's like, that's your dad. He shouldn't be this emotionally distant from you. But what Greg really needs to do is also realize that, figure out what it is that he wants for himself and who he wants to be, and just kind of discover who he is away from these crazy expectations that have always been on him his entire life. So what does Greg do about these wants and needs that he has? So to start with, all his decisions are based on that want. All his decision making is informed by what he wants, which is to win his father's approval and to make him proud. So Greg is a massive overachiever. He's spent his life jumping through these hoops, living up to all these ridiculous standards, studying, being the smartest kid in the book. He's graduated early. He's already got a degree. He was the youngest qualified healer ever, and he's only 19. And he's already got his degree. So he's really smart. And he's done all these things just to live up to the expectations of his father. The next thing he does is that he submits an essay on his theory on what has happened to the elves and where the next keeper of the heart crystal is. This catches the council's attention, which leads to them to ask him to basically test out his theory and go look for the next crystal keeper. Of course, Greg agrees. He's like, happily agrees. He's like, oh my God, this is a really important thing. If I find the next Crystal Keeper, this will most definitely make my father proud and so happy, because if I achieved something that so many people have failed at, there's no way my father wouldn't be happy and proud of me. So he jumps at the opportunity and he goes to the human world and in search of the Crystal Keeper. And obviously his search finds him Melissa. So yes, he's done a good job. He's done his job. He informs the council he's found her. But obviously Melissa's like, I don't want to do it. So then one of the stupid things he does is kind of stalks her and follows her around, and then it freaks her out a bit, and then she's screaming and runs away from him. So yeah, that was a really dumb choice. But then he talks to his cousin and is like, okay, figures out a better way to approach her. And they start to get along and she listens. And it does help that he then also kind of saves her from a shadow, and she's like, okay, then you're not all bad, because I'm freaking out right now, and this magic shit is crazy. But then, once she does agree, the next silly thing he does is that he tries to make Melissa conform to the Magic Society's expectations. So, yes, it's good, he's training her magic, that's great, but then he's also like, oh, you should wear this dress, or you should do this, and he starts to coach her sort of thing on the council, and it's almost like it doesn't work, because Melissa just can't perform like that, because that's not who she is. The next silly thing he does is that he ignores his own wants, his own needs, and his own feelings, and pushes them aside to live up to the standards and to present himself in a way that his father would expect. So he starts to get close with Melissa, and then he's like, no, I have to keep it professional, because my father would be basically like, oh, you're so stupid for me, like getting emotionally involved, like you need to keep this professional. She's a tool for us to manipulate and use for our own advantage. That is literally the sort of thing his dad would tell him, and Greg knows this, but at the same time he's like, but I like her and she's nice and I don't want to just use her as a political tool sort of thing. Greg's aha moment comes sooner than Melissa's. His aha moment comes only a little bit after the midpoint. He goes through his arc a bit quicker than Melissa, but that's because he's the second main character. Melissa's the main protagonist, so it takes her a little bit longer to learn her lesson. So Greg starts making smart choices sooner than Melissa. So his first smart choice is he stands up to his dad and he tells him no. And tells him that he does not agree in using Melissa as a political tool, and that she's her own person and she should decide for herself. He then goes on to make his own choices. Even though they are different to what his dad wants, he stands firm and believes and does what he thinks is right in the situation. His next smart choice is that he stops trying to make Melissa conform. And when he stops trying to make Melissa conform, he realizes that, you know what? Why am I trying so hard to conform to these crazy expectations? And then that makes him, his next smart choice to be, he stops trying to live up to the crazy expectations of his dad. And then his final smart choice is that he allows himself to fall in love. So Greg realizes his feelings way before Melissa, and he's like cements and realizes, yeah, I like her, and he's like, he allows himself to have those feelings, and that is not a bad thing to have an emotional connection to someone else. So yeah, those are Greg's motivations and how he goes through his character arc, and you can see how his wants and needs inform his arc and the decisions he makes, and how his want and need, like Melissa's, were at odds with each other, which created the conflict, which pushed the forward, but also had like things, so there was natural resistance. And that is how I go about starting developing my characters. And all of those three questions will inform the whole section in my character profiles of character growth. And some of these things can change over time. So as you're writing, you might think, oh, actually this doesn't fit anymore, or I want them to do something different. But it's a good starting point and good 3 questions to ask yourself, just get yourself thinking about different things and what you can do. And depending on when you're watching this video, there may or may not be a link below to the character profile that I do use for my characters. So help yourself to that and just give it a go and ask yourself these 3 questions and see where they take you. It's just fun writing exercise. So I hope this helps and have fun writing.